All right, thank you very much. Really, I'm only doing this because I feel sorry for, he's got to interview so many people. I figure, oh, I've got all these pictures, I might as well make it easy for him. So, but likely you'll all fall asleep in about 5 minutes or so, so I apologize. I have to compulsively apologize before I ever talk in public. I don't know why. It makes it easier. So I didn't get my Master's of Fine Arts because I had to give a oral report for one class, and I just couldn't make myself do it, so I never got my degree. So this is sort of like karmic makeup or something. But is there any way to turn down the lights so nobody can see my hideous pink head? Thank you. Nobody wants to look at me. All right, I'll just go through pictures really quickly here. This is a book I did in 2000 called Jimmy Corrigan, the Smartest Kid on Earth. Concerns the story of a man about 36 years old who meets his father for the first time. And this is a sequence very early in the book. And this is after he's met his father. He comes back to the same street corner. There's also a part of the book set in 1893 at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, which is the town in which I have chosen to live out my years. It's also the place where our new American president is from. So I'd also like to apologize for the last 8 years. I did not vote for the man we have had ruining the world. But hopefully things will be better now.
It's okay, it's over.
It's over, yeah. Well, he's got a lot of picking up to do. This is a new story I've been working on called Building Stories. It hasn't been collected yet, but it will be in about 35 years when I finish it. It's about an apartment building in Chicago and the inhabitants on the 3 floors. Mostly I've been focusing on the girl on the top floor. There's a married couple on the 2nd floor and an old woman on the 3rd floor. These are the first 3 introductory strips from the New York Times magazine. So this is a strip about the elderly woman who lives on the 1st floor. It starts up in the upper left-hand corner, and as you read down the staircase, she gradually gets older until at the very end of the strip she's the elderly woman that she is. So she's lived all her life in the building. And this is based on a strip actually by Charles Forbell, who did a strip called Naughty Pete that was created as a replacement for Winsor McCay in a few papers and only ran for 17 episodes. But it's a very interesting strip. He was a Life magazine illustrator. That's all editry then. I guess nobody. Well, I guess what am I talking about? Everybody here would want to hear that. You guys are supposed to like comics, so. There's a part of the story that's wordless. This is the girl who lives on the top floor, works in a flower shop. And then also, I've oriented the strip around 4 stories. I guess I don't know how else to describe them, except I sort of think of them as maps. I wanted to create strips where you didn't necessarily start in the upper left-hand corner and just read through, that you could start anywhere and it would kind of come together in an almost 4-dimensional way. So there's 4 strips based around the 4 seasons and also the 4 levels of the building. And I owe this entirely to my good friend and great artist Richard McGuire, who was an artist for Raw magazine and does work for The New Yorker. He did a few strips where he just suggested an idea like this, and then I ruthlessly stole it and then turned it into a way of telling stories. So he actually lived in Angouleme for 1.5 years, and he was working on that Fears of the Dark film. So really wonderful artist. And then like the pages I just showed about the building, this is another story about the girl. This is about her first sexual experience. So again, 3 strips. And also then this is a strip about the thoughts going through her mind as she's falling asleep. And there's a 4th story then about a bee who, I don't know if anybody knows anything about bee culture or not, but apparently like all the women do all the work and then the male bees just sit around and wait for the women to bring all the honey back, and then they drink all the honey and then drunkenly wreck the hive. So this is a story about one male bee who just tries to be really good, but he can't help but stop thinking about having sex with the queen. He tries really hard not to think about it. So And I did these all before that Jerry Seinfeld movie, so it really depressed me when I saw it came out. So basically, it's just a strip about sex. So, and as the story progresses, the girl who's alone on the top floor of the building meets somebody, gets married, and has a child. And this is the most recent strip I did that's part of the super giant book maybe some of you have seen around. It's called Kramer's Ergot 7. So this is a spread I did for it. And the conceit of this strip, which is sort of similar to the other strips I showed with the girl in the center, is that the little girl is basically actual size of what a real child would be printed. So when I had a daughter, it really changed my life. It's suddenly like all the questions of life were answered, and I finally felt happy. Just sort of a nice feeling. I'm showing this just to show the difference between what I think of between cartooning and drawing. I think there's a big difference. Because when I'm trying to draw, I'm actually trying to see the world. I look out at the world and I'm trying to reproduce what I see. When I cartoon, I'm trying to reproduce my memories or my fantasies. It's entirely a synthetic activity. So when I draw, I don't really pay any attention to the straightness of the lines. It's just a simple reproductive sort of activity. So this is my apartment building. Obviously, it's also the building that's in that one story. So this is my drawing board. Pretty ignominious place. So cartoonist studios are always kind of gross. It's like an accountant or something sitting doodling on a scratch pad. It's like we're not like action painters with big canvases splattering paint everywhere. It's a very unmacho medium. That's why we try to overcompensate with big coats and stuff. Bad haircuts. This is another strip from the Building Stories sequence. A story about the girl on the top floor before she moved into the building, when she just gotten out of art school and she worked as a nanny for a rich family in the suburbs of Chicago. And I'm showing this just to show you how I work on a page. Generally, I just start drawing with a vague idea of what's going to happen, and I allow both the words and the pictures to drive the story. Sometimes I'll have an idea of where the story is going to end up, but frequently that will change by the time I get to the end of the story, because the images that I'm drawing will suggest new places or new ideas, or I'll think, well, what's around that corner? And before I know it, the story is completely different, which is, you kind of have to trick yourself into telling the truth. If you think you're telling the truth on your own, frequently you're just lying to make yourself feel better about your artwork. So I think one of the good things about comics is that it allows for that mental mechanism to kind of squeeze through, and you end up, hopefully, if you're being honest with yourself. But so anyway, this is all blue pencil, which is a holdover from the days of stat cameras, because the film that they used would not photograph the blue. So this is about 4 or 5 days of work. And I ink in the panel borders and do the lettering, and then do all the figures with a brush. And then I draw in all the backgrounds. I want the figures and the backgrounds just to feel slightly different. Like when I look out into the world and I look at people, they look slightly different than the sort of architectural surroundings that we all live in a modern world. So I want there to be sort of a difference between that, but subtle, and then I add in the color. So excuse me.